Em,
Yes, Rick?
what the fuck even is a resolution?
Dude, I looked it up this time.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it then.
So it is a firm decision to do or not to do something. So I feel like the most common one everybody talks about is like getting in shape, like going to the gym or something, which if it's a weight loss thing, it's not great. If you're like, man, I want to get in shape so I can like go hiking and shit, sure,
That's
go to
nice.
the gym. Like I totally
But
feel
then
that.
the goal is to go hiking more. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
getting in shape is the subsequent goal.
Yeah.
That I can get for.
Yeah.
But if it's, I want a hot summer bod, nah, whatever.
Yeah.
Your bod's already hot.
Yeah. You don't need to change anything.
Yeah.
If it's like a health thing, do the health thing.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's like what a resolution is it's that firm decision to do something, or like, let's say you want to stop doing something, like stop biting your nails. Like that resolution would be like a firm decision to stop biting your nails. Did I
don't bite my nails
with you?
I don't bite my nails.
Okay.
No.
The skin around your nails?
Nope. Not me. I don't do that. Okay, you got me. I do that. And my cuticles, man. Whatever. So, resolutions, right?
Yeah, resolutions.
So yeah, you know the drill. It's the beginning of the new year. Of course, we got to talk about fucking resolutions. So, welcome back, all you sibling people. We're gonna do the damn thing. This is Sister Show Me How, a podcast, a place where we help you talk through all the real rough shit. I'm Research Rick, host of Sister Show Me How, and your how-to sister.
And I'm Inspired Em, co-host of Sister Show Me How and your other how-to sister.
You know, Em, speaking of resolutions, people be making big old grand resolutions in January and then be big mad when that shit falls through in February.
Absolutely.
Like, the stores even plan on it. They prep all this, like, health food in January, and then in February, they give you all the chocolate and shit.
Right? And, like, regular, like, gym goers are like, oh my gosh, like, those first couple weeks of January, maybe sometimes all the way through the month of January, it's so packed.
Yeah, it was like that when we were going to the gym together in fucking college.
Yeah.
It was, like, at the beginning of the year, or... For college campus, it's worse because at the beginning of every semester, people act like it's a fresh start, right? Because it's a new semester. I'm taking new classes. I'm going to be a new me. Yeah, it lasts like 6 weeks, and then they fall through again. What they're lacking, I have noticed, is intention. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is living your life on purpose. So, what is intention, and how does one act with intention? Let's talk about it.
All right. I know I had a definition at the beginning, but it's your turn now.
Yeah. Okay, so first things first. The definition of intention defined by the Oxford Dictionary. Intentional means done on purpose, deliberate. It's a pretty straightforward thing.
Yeah.
I like the whole done on purpose thing because it means intentional. It's like one of those definitions. Define responsibility. See responsible. Okay.
Yeah.
But essentially it just means that we're not running on autopilot. You know what I mean? Like, we all have these natural pre-programmed autopilot programs that we just kind of run on that are attached to our subconscious, you know? So whenever we are just kind of checked out, these are just the programmed. God, I need another word for that eventually. You would think I was a writer, but I can only think of three
just
adjectives.
Habits.
Yeah, it's your go-to habits that you default onto. So the point is to make those healthier so that your default is not as toxic and as self-sabotaging as...
Well, and even if it's relatively neutral, like, for instance, one of the things that I've noticed you do that's something I would like it to incorporate into my life is being much more intentional with music. Because I'm one of those people, I cannot get into my car without turning on music.
Yeah.
But I just, usually I'm in a rush, especially like in the morning going to work. I just throw on whatever the last playlist I listened to was. And it's not toxic necessarily, but it could be so much more empowering and like something that is more intentional.
Yeah. That's honestly has worked really well for me, because I noticed, if you knew me as a teenager, I was one angry son of a bitch. And I think, I mean, obviously I had to deal with a lot of repressed emotions and like trauma and not being vulnerable with anybody and just like a lack of support. You know, obviously there were a lot of things, but my taste in music at the time was hardcore rock. And not the like fun dance kind of rock. The kind of rock that is like, fuck everyone, fuck myself.
Angry, angsty.
Yeah, angry and angsty. And I know for the most part teenagers are angry and angsty to begin with, but mine lasted well into my 20s. And it wasn't until, honestly, probably like a year or so ago that I realized this is actually kind of making me feel like shit. Like, it's just not...
Yeah.
Originally, I thought that it was, like, helping me to express my rage, but then I recognized that it was actually keeping me in a state of rage.
Well, and it's possible that originally when you were a teenager, it was helping you express that. And then, like you said, since it continued so far into your 20s, that you no longer needed that. And that's why it was,
I just needed healthier ways to express my rage. But with the music that I listen to now, it's not... I don't think it's cheesy, but it's mostly women empowering themselves, or there's a couple of male artists that I really like who talk about, like, you know, slowing things down and respecting your energy. Okay, so that's great, because that's a way that we can act with intention. So if you would like to also act with intention, I've got 4 whole steps for you. Okay, so step 1 is to define the goal. And I know that sounds kind of materialistic, but it can be as broad as, you know, I want to fall in love with life again, or I want to find peace, or I want to connect deeper with people on a deeper level. Like, there are ways to have non-physical goals and use physical habits to help you get there. Everything's connected. Step 2, slow down and recognize. Also kind of broad, but what I am meaning is, I want you to question your motives. I want you to question your intentions. I want you to question the feelings and emotions that you get when you come up with this. What is it that's keeping you from what you desire? If you want to fall in love with life, what's keeping you from loving your life? Like, what's keeping you angry? What's keeping you sad? What's keeping you stressed or anxious or whatever? If you want to find peace, who is it? What is it that's keeping you from having inner peace? If you want to connect with people, what is it that's keeping you from being vulnerable? Just really get curious with yourself and be honest.
And I think also with the slow down and recognize, it's take those moments where you are on autopilot, like in the morning, making coffee, or in the evening when you're getting ready for bed, or when you're getting ready to go to work, those sorts of things where I think we fall into such a sort of strict routine. I think that's when we can really kind of sit down and think about what can we do to improve that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice. My favorite part about going on a bodily autopilot when you're doing tasks that you don't really need to think about is that you can utilize that time to do what I call play in your brain, which is just to let your mind wander. I know a lot of people are afraid of that, but we have to move through that because essentially your brain is the only place where you live because it colors all of your reality. Even a jail cell can be a mansion in the right perspective, and a mansion can be a jail cell in the wrong perspective. You know what I mean? Like, perspective colors everything, and if you live in your brain, then that's really the only space that you need to make nice. So if you can't handle even being in your brain, a lot of things are not going to come together the way that you want them to because you can't find peace within your own space.
That is not to say that if you need to take breaks from your brain, that your brain isn't healthy, because it's totally fine if you have an overactive brain. So if you need those moments where you need to do mindless things and be mindless, that is also a-okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a part of discovering yourself. You need to discover where your balance is. When do I need to invest time and play around in my brain? And when do I need to shut it down and get it to silence? You know what I mean? Like, that's all a part of balance.
Balance.
That sounds about right. So we're going to do what step 3 is and course correct this conversation and our lives.
Yes.
So essentially what that means is once you have analyzed what's holding you back and why you are in the position that you're in, we are going to establish a plan to get us back on track. And that is best done in small increments. Set yourself small goals that you can achieve really fairly quickly, because I find that builds your confidence really quickly. Mm-hmm. And then the quicker you build your confidence, the higher your confidence gets, the more willing you are to take on the scarier tasks like calling the doctor's office.
Or the dentist.
No, fuck the dentist. We don't call the dentist.
I need to go to the dentist.
I'm just kidding. I absolutely hate the dentist.
I do too.
Absolutely cannot stand to have anything in my mouth that does not belong there.
Especially because, I've only ever been to one dentist my entire life, and now I don't live there anymore.
Aww.
And so I'm like...
I already hated going when I knew it.
Yeah.
And now I don't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Anyways, moving on. Well, how do you feel like you are being more intentional in your life? Do you feel like there are steps that you have taken, could take in the future to be more intentional? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So we already touched on, I want to be more intentional with my music.
Yeah.
One of the other things is after college, I really feel like I lost a lot of my identity while I was in college because all of my time was taken up with just getting through college. Mm-hmm. So afterwards I was really struggling with kind of finding joy and finding myself again. So I kind of went backwards and I was like, what did I like to do when I was a kid? What were things that I enjoyed as a kid? And that's going so far as food, music, activities, hobbies, all of that. I kind of went backwards and I was what stuff did I enjoy as a kid? So yeah, went and did that. A big one was video games. I grew up watching my brother play video games. And
that's so cool.
Every once in a while, he would allow me to play.
What a typical big brother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in his defense, I was really, 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 really bad. I'm still not very good, but...
Aren't you quite a bit younger than him too? So the age gap would have made...
Yeah, so I'm 4 years younger than him. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's an 8th grader trying to play with a senior. And he's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, exactly. So occasionally we would play 2-player Halo and I died every 2 seconds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but anyways, I went back and I just recently was I want to play Halo again. And so I got it. And
wow, you're so
I
hot.
play on easy and I still suck. But it's fun. And I'm reconnecting with things I enjoyed in
great.
childhood. So
I love that for you.
and then like I think I could move on from there too. So
Yeah.
like Zelda, I never played Zelda as a kid, but I love that video game. So
That's fun.
yeah.
I'm doing the same thing. I have a fucking 900 hours logged into my Animal Crossing game.
Yeah.
I have restarted my island like 6 times.
Yeah.
I have an entire shrine to Hello Kitty. Literally, you were there, so you know. But my partner for my birthday got me. Okay, I'm gonna have to tell this story without crying. It was so fucking cute. When I was 5 years old, my mom and dad bought my brother and I at the time alarm clocks. And I was really into Hello Kitty, duh, because I was 5. And it was a little teacup Hello Kitty alarm clock with a lemon slice nightlight on a little tea. It was so proper, on a saucer and everything. And my brother got a SpongeBob alarm clock. It was a cute little squishy SpongeBob on a treasure chest. But unfortunately, our bedrooms were right across the hall from each other. And his alarm clock was a fucking bullhorn. Just like SpongeBob's is in the goddamn cartoon.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to hear my delightful little me. Instead, because we woke up at the same fucking time, because we're both 5, or I guess technically he's 4 or 3.5, whatever. So we're toddlers. I always got woken up to It's awful. And my partner has heard this story multiple times, of course, and so for my birthday this year, he got me my Hello Kitty teacup on a saucer alarm clock.
That's
And,
adorable.
It is sitting on my bedside table. And yes, so I have that alarm clock in our bedroom and a shrine to Hello Kitty. So I totally 100% understand the connecting with your childhood again.
Yeah. I think especially if it's like I think in childhood we don't, until we get to a certain age, we don't really focus on like what other people think of us.
Yes.
So especially if you feel disconnected and you don't really know what you like, I think that's a great place to start.
Right.
So, and also like you can get some of that nostalgia, especially like, you know, as a kid, for the most part, we tended to be happier and more carefree. So like sometimes reconnecting with that sort of stuff brings some of those feelings back.
Right.
And like, yeah, it can be really nice.
Right.
So
I feel like even if you did have a traumatic childhood, which a lot of us did, there is always at least something in our childhood that brought us joy. Whether that be books for a lot of us who liked to disconnect. That's another thing that I've done. I, in my last manic phase, bought all of the books that I loved as a teenager. I now have almost 300 books.
I just not every time, but almost every time I go back to my mom's house, I take a couple more. I always ask. I'm like,
Right.
is it okay if I take these books? But
She's a mom. She doesn't care.
no, she does. She has told me no on some of them. She's like, no, you can't take those. I like those.
That's fair.
So.
If I was a mom and some of my children tried to come and take my books, I would be very selective about which ones they could take too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my books are my babies.
Yeah.
And they were here before you, so fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's always something that you can reconnect with your childhood. And you're right, that is a great place to start. Because obviously your habits and your hobbies and your interests and stuff shift as you grow up. But yeah, it's a good place to always go back to, reconnect to.
Yeah. One of the other things I did is I have really struggled with burnout.
Okay.
And one of the things I realized I was doing is when I was taking time to rest, I was really just dissociating.
Oof.
And so that's not really actually restful.
No.
And so I really tried to become more intentional with my rest. And so what that's looked like for me is I pick a day where I'm like, if I need like a full day to just like decompress and like not really focus on anything and just kind of do whatever I want, I make sure that like that is very clear in my mind. So like if I do have times when I'm like, I I feel like a good example is like scrolling on your phone, and I'm like, I don't actually feel like I'm resting because I keep having these thoughts of like, well, I need to be doing this or I need to do that or, you know, something. That's not restful. So you're not getting any of the benefits of actually sitting there and resting. So I have to be really intentional, and like it's very internal for me where I'm like, no, this is when I decided that, you know, I'm going to rest, and those things I decided are things that are not a priority for me at this moment, and so they are going to wait. And I have to just like reassure myself that like I'm not doing anything wrong by putting stuff off.
No, absolutely.
So
yeah, because rest is productive. And also, you're right that sitting on your phone, even if you are butt-ass naked, in bed, chilling with a heating pad and a fan on, and your body is at complete peace, and your resting heart rate is at like 70, like, no, you're not resting if you're on your phone. I'm sorry, because it is cramming your brain with information. It is racking your nervous system full of stimulation. It is just, you're not actually resting. You need to allow your brain some peace. Like, if you feel like you have a really loud brain, it's probably because you're always overstimulated. And if you need a tip to help you quiet your brain when it's too loud, you need to destimulate, babe. Okay, so how else do you feel like you've been able to incorporate intentional habits into your life?
So one thing that I really, like, this is a big one, is I was really struggling with grief after my dad died because I'd never had somebody close to me pass before. And so this was like a really big, strong emotion that I didn't really know how to deal with.
Right.
Sometimes I still don't.
That's fair.
So I got I call it my depression journal.
Cute.
And so anytime, and I have a list on my phone titled titled shit I need to journal about.
This ain't for kids. You ain't got to keep a PG-13 for us, baby.
But so it started out with mostly being this grief thing. And so it was like, I wrote letters to my dad. I've written letters to other family members, like talking about like situations that happened. But it really started out as more of a grief journal, like trying to process through something that I'd never had to deal with before. Because I knew from the get-go that it was going to be something I was going to struggle with.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was not something I could ignore. And it was something that I was going to have to work through and process. And for me, the best way that was journaling. And so, yeah, it's turned into so much more than that. And so now if I have something like, for example, one of the things that is on my list that I still need to work through, because also it started out as something where it was like, I would have a really hard day because I was struggling to just get through the day. And so I would like come home from work, because you have to go on with life. You can't just, the world does not stop when somebody you love dies. And so you have to still go be a human being in society. And I didn't know how to do that. And so, because to me, the world had stopped. Yeah. And so I would come home, and all of that grief that I had been trying to hide all day, I poured into that journal. And so then it turned into, once I wasn't going through those days and it didn't feel like the world had stopped anymore, it would be things that I would think about during the day where I was like, for example, I had a thought where I was like, why do I struggle so much with keeping my house clean until I know somebody's going to come and see it? And so is that something where I'm focusing more on, like, it's more important for other people to have a clean house when they come to visit me, instead of being more important for me to have a clean home to live in? And so that's on the list of something that I thought about, but I'm like, I can't really necessarily journal about it right now because sometimes it's the middle of the day and I don't have it with me. And also, that journal is specifically for things that I know are going to be really hard emotions that I'm going to have to work through, that I don't necessarily want to do in front of people. Yeah. So
I think if I may comment on the house thing, It may also be a matter of, on one hand, people pleasing, because you have a standard of like the way you want people to perceive you, and you don't want anyone to think that you're a slob or that like you smell bad or whatever. But also, you don't want people to know how much you're struggling. And your mess and your clutter is just a visual representation of what's going on in your body and in your mind. And you put walls up with people, and you don't want them to know that that is what is actually going on the inside.
Stop it. All right, well, now that I feel really called out.
Not called out, enlightened.
Yeah. So, similar to that, another way that I was intentional.
Moving on.
Again, like, if you're somebody who struggles to, like, work through big emotions, content. So, the things that you consume, whether that's TV, movies, books, music, I've always had issues with expressing, like, sadness, grief, anger, etc. And so I would, like, to get some of those emotions out, I would watch content or consume content that went along with those emotions. So I'd listen to sad music, I'd watch a sad movie, I'd read a sad book. And I think, to clarify, that's a starting point.
Right.
To help get you used to having some of those emotions.
Right.
And that's something that then you need to intentionally move on from at some point. You need to, like, it can be a crutch to get you started walking again, but eventually you want to walk without the crutch. So.
Good one. It's a good analogy. Metaphor.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What are some of the ways that you've been intentional with your life?
I feel like I am also a big journaler. I have noticed, though, that I journaled more when I was in college, mostly because I think I didn't have quite as big, and that's interesting for me to recognize right on the spot. I didn't have quite as big of a support system in college, even though I had a lot of friends. I didn't really feel like I had a lot of people I could talk to unbiasedly, or that actually gave a shit about my problems. Because a lot of times my friends would, and I understand, but a lot of times they would try to either give me advice on my problem, and if that didn't work, then they
didn't want to hear about it
yeah,
anymore.
They were overwhelmed, or they're like, okay, well, fine, you figure it out, and like they would just kind of shut it down. Or my problem seemed too big that it just like kind of seemed like I was bitching all the time, when really I just needed to like get it off my chest. And so that's when I would go to my journal, is I would write all the time. But now, and really since I've started dating my partner, since we've lived together, I have journaled significantly less, and I think that's because I get to use him as a journal. A lot of the time I get to just ramble and talk, and
yeah, that's a good point. Is like, yeah, having that support system is very, very important.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel like you can talk to your friends or partner, that may be something to look into.
Yeah, because there's definitely a way to create a sort of support system within yourself.
Right.
And obviously that's always the first support system we want to go to. Internal validation, internal regulation, and all that other stuff.
Yes.
But
we're community creatures.
We are.
And so, I mean, if your friends, family, whoever that you're turning to makes you feel any sort of shame for turning to them, that's not good.
Yeah.
But then also just, at a certain point, like, that's why solitary confinement is, like, literally a punishment. It's
the worst in prison.
Yeah, because
we're social creatures.
We're social creatures. So,
yeah.
If you don't have a good support system, it could be something that you can work on within the community that you already have. Maybe it's as simple as, like, when you go and you need to express a problem, you just say, like, hey, do you have the space to, like, work through this with me? It could also be something where, like you were talking about your friends offering advice and you just needed to vent. You can say that and say, like, you know, I've had to tell my mom that. She's a problem solver, love her to death.
With mine.
But I've had to tell her, I'm like, please just let me bitch. I don't want you to solve it right now. I just want to be angry.
Yeah.
So
I have the same rule with mine. And
Yeah.
as soon as I say that, I'm like, I just need to vent. She's like, all right, okay,
yeah,
I heard.
yeah, yeah,
But I agree. And especially in my case, I did not have those communicative skills to be able to tell my friends, like, I don't
Yeah.
fucking want your advice. I appreciate your concern, but
Yeah.
I'm capable of doing it myself. I just need to work through it.
yeah,
And so that was one of the reasons that I felt I needed to turn to my journal. And so if you feel like you have relationships with these, sometimes it's not because they're toxic friends. Sometimes it's just because, like me, they don't know how to communicate those things. They don't recognize that they're offering you advice. They think that they're trying to be supportive. So we just need to, again, step 2, pause and reflect, think about these things, and understand, like, why do I not feel like I'm being understood? Oh, well, it's because I'm not being able to actually tell my story. It's because I
Right.
feel like my friends and family are giving me advice when I don't really want it. I feel like I don't really communicating these things appropriately. Do it, because you might find that, like I did, the issues that you have get resolved when you finally tell your mom or your friend, like,
yeah,
hey, can I just fucking vent? Can I just yell and scream? And
Yeah.
and they'll get it. And they're like, oh, well, fuck, okay. You should have just said it like that. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I think that has been something, and I guess communication has been a way that I've been really intentional. Specifically this year, I have tried really hard to enforce all of my boundaries. And it has been very difficult because there have been a lot of people in my life who decided that they don't want to uphold those, and I have had to still be intentional and be like, this breaks my heart, but I still have to do it. So communication has been a way that I've been intentional. I've actually scheduled a whole day for me to do writing now because I want to be more intentional with my journaling again. Because I wasn't ever intentional with it in college, I was just doing it more frequently.
yeah,
It wasn't like oh, I'm gonna plan for this. It was just like oh, I'm so fucking pissed. I just have to get it out somewhere. And this was
Yeah.
just my last resort because I was too broke for therapy.
yeah,
Or self-help books. I was too broke for those too. But then also we talked about the music thing. That's been a big one for me. That has been a big one. I have a whole podcast. Duh. Here it is. I have a whole playlist that is called Highest Vibes, babe.
Ooh.
And it is all of the
Cute.
songs that bring me the most joy. It is hard I get like, if I'm even having a shitty day, I get like 5 songs in, all of a sudden I'm bopping. That's all it takes.
Well, and also, it's proven that singing is supposed to endorphins or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then it's a good thing I almost lost my voice jamming out on the way over here then.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was like chugging water. I was like, this fucking thing was in the back seat. I couldn't reach it. I'm over here jamming out. I need water so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. That's one thing that I've noticed is like, I really love to sing, but I'm not necessarily a great singer.
Who cares?
But I love
The
to
louder
sing.
you get, the better you
So,
get.
thanks.
No. I mean, like, statistically.
Oh.
The louder you get, the better people think you are.
Good to know. But yeah, so I love to sing in the car, but the music that I most enjoy to sing to, simply because of the way that it sounds, not because of like it actually being like melancholy, but like I like more of like the drawn out notes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love to sing to, and it just happens to tend to be more melancholy usually.
I
But
have found
it makes
some-
me happy anyways, just because
You get to belt
you're
out.
singing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've found some songs, like that playlist that inspires me, it's got some that are like rap, and it's got some that are like the one that I showed you earlier, which like you can really sing to and
Right.
like play with
Yeah.
and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
Some of it sounds almost kind of like Jesus-y and like gospel-y, but they're talking about like energy and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of,
well, it is like
Kinda
spiritual,
nice.
so yeah, I can kind of see that.
yeah, some of it does get into that like spiritual kind of hippie doodah shit,
Yeah.
but some of it is like rap, and it's like I'm a boss bitch and I'm getting shit done and I'm protecting my energy, you know?
I love that though.
Okay, so we've gone over the ways that we're currently being intentional, but it's the new year, right? And so we're trying to, most of us, set new resolutions. So what do you think you're going to go into the new year with for your resolutions, and how are you going to be intentional with those things moving forward?
So biggest thing for me this year is I want to be better with my spending.
Okay.
I would like to pay off more of my debts, cut back on my spending, and hopefully establish more of a savings.
Yeah.
And so some of the things that I've like planned out for how to be more intentional about that is I need to move out of my lack mentality. So I think I have this like thing in my mind that if I don't buy things right away, I'm not going to be able to buy them later.
Okay.
Which
Scarcity
yeah,
mentality.
so I need to investigate that. So if it is something that I want to buy and I'm like, is this something that's not going to be available later? And is anything similar going to be available later? I need to go through that thought process each time I'm thinking about buying something. And then also kind of that thought process of, do I absolutely need it right now? Like, since I haven't had it in my life so far, what have I been using instead?
Right.
Can I continue to use that sort of stuff? And then especially for food, since a lot of my spending goes towards particularly DoorDash.
Oh my God, dude, yeah.
Because I don't have a great relationship with food. I think that's a lack mentality too, because I think part of why I struggle so much to eat things that I have at home instead of like what I'm specifically craving is a lack mentality. Okay. I think what's going on in my mind is my brain is going, if we don't eat this right now, we're never going to be able to have this craving again, which is obviously not really in any way true. Yeah. So I need to acknowledge that, like, okay, if I'm craving that like burger and fries, there are always going to be burger and fries at some point that I can get. I do not need to eat a burger and fries right now. I can get it later. Right. And so like acknowledge that craving, but then move on with the mindset of like, I can still get this later. And then also focusing on abundance. So I've actually seen this online of when you see something that you want, actually, there's previous steps. So let's start with the previous steps before I get into this other thing. But basically, when I want to buy something, do I have anything similar already? If I do, probably don't need to buy it.
Right.
Why do I want it? Was I influenced by marketing? So ooh. I think that's a big one. I've realized I'm pretty susceptible to marketing.
Yeah, we're pretty dumb bitches.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to be honest, like, that's the whole point of marketing. So, like, it's not entirely on us.
They use psychologists to get us to be more susceptible to this shit.
Yeah.
That's some tricky business.
Yeah. So, it's totally understandable if you're susceptible to marketing.
Yeah. If you get your dumb bitch moments, ain't no one going to judge you here. We all fall for them.
Yeah. So, but I just need to try and be more intentional when I do want to buy something. Why do I really want to buy it?
Yeah, that's fair.
And then, so this is the thing that I've seen online is add it to a list and you go through this sort of checklist. So you add it to a list. And then if you still want it so this is also part of the checklist of like, how is it going to help me? Like, do I have anything similar, etc. But especially like add it to the list and then like your little wish list. If you still want it in a month or two, at that point, it's probably worth it. If it's something, not that it's something that like you completely forgot about and you go back to the wish list and you're like, oh yeah, you still want it. But if you've been consistently like, no, I want it for a month or two, probably worth it. So like, then you can look at your finances and potentially find it. I also have seen apps and websites that like you can add it to a list there and it notifies you when it goes on sale. Ooh. So I need to do more of that because then that also makes me wait for it. Yeah.
And you save money.
And I save money.
Double win.
And then I need to do a spending tracker. Ooh. I think that this does two things. It lets me really be cognizant of how much I'm actually spending. So anything that's not like groceries or bills goes on the spending tracker, whether that's food, going out with friends, going to the bars. However much I spend goes on the spending tracker. And the spending tracker also is kind of part of a budget. So when I've done it previously, I don't want to go over like, let's say $200 in a month. So you add that up each day as you spend. But then it also, you have a list of all the things that you've bought. And so that can be your focus on abundance of like, look at all the shit that I did
That's
this
fair.
month. Like,
Yeah.
look at all that I got.
Yeah. You know, I kind of do that too. I fucking, this is really cheesy, but I get manic phases. And when I get my manic phases, I usually want to shop. But I don't always have enough to like go out and shop to where I feel like I need at least $150 to like just blow, you know, and that doesn't always come, just like whatever.
Yeah.
I have to sometimes save for that. So when I'm feeling like I have the shopping itch, but I can't go shopping, I always take pictures of all my shit once I go on a shopping spree, and I do it in stages. I'll put all the bags in the living room floor, and I'll like take a picture of all the bags and like, whoa, look at all this shit. And they'll take them all out of the bags and I'll like set them up in like a cute way. I do this with my birthday gifts. I do this with any shopping spree, like any new books that I get, and I take a cute picture of them, and then I can just go through my photo album and it's almost like a shopping spree for me.
Well, and I think that that's a great way to focus on abundance too, because you're right, when it's all right there,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, look at all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas as you like put things away,
You go blind to them.
they're spread out.
Yeah.
You go blind to them, and like it just doesn't seem like that much. So
Right.
even if like you're thinking back and you're like, yeah, I bought this, this, and this, and even if you can like cognizantly remember everything that you bought, it's not
Right.
the same as like, yeah, you can see it and you're like, wow, I really did get a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And honestly, I can tell you from experience, I do get the same euphoric feel as I just brought it home when I look back at those photos.
Yeah.
Like I get just as excited as I was when I was taking the picture.
Yeah.
So it definitely works.
Well, I can add that to my list to try.
Yeah, I think it's fun, honestly.
Absolutely. All right, so what are things you're resolutioning and focusing on being intentional?
Okay, so I've got 3 big resolutions this year. The first one is to make more time for independent study. And that small goal looks like reading 14 books.
Okay.
Because my goal last year was 12 books, and I read like 18. So 14 seems totally doable. I just raised the bar a little bit. But this time I'm going to try to do specifically 7 nonfiction and 7 fiction. Because I've noticed that I lean more towards fiction. And while there's completely nothing wrong with that, because a story is a story and you still gain experience, I want the nonfiction so that I can have more tangible knowledge.
Yeah.
And more like deeper connections with the knowledge that I already have.
Yeah.
Because the stories are fun, like I said, but it's just, that part's more of a hobby than study. And I want to incorporate both. I want it to be fun and educational.
Yeah.
So the thing I think I need to focus on most for that is just going to be time management. I just need to make more time for it. Which is not a problem because I find reading to be restful. So the more I prioritize my rest, the more I will be able to prioritize reading as well.
Absolutely. That's a great.
The next one would be to focus on establishing healthy lifestyles. And that is going to be intentionality. Like this whole podcast is what I need to work on because I need to be intentional with my food and drink as well. I need to drink a lot more water. I need to eat a lot less salt. I need to establish some sort of workout regimen because I am only moving my body at work and I don't have a desk job. So I know I move my ass more than like you do or like my partner does. And that's still not enough, you know? And so I think that it would be important for me to, but I don't like going out. So I'm going to have to make a space in my home to be able to like do yoga. That's really the only exercise I want to do, if I'm going to be honest with you. I would love to go running again, but there's not a park next to me.
You could run through your apartment complex. You would have to do more like cross country and stay in the grass since there's not really sidewalks. But I mean,
I could run that circle.
Yeah, you could even run in like the street part because people are going slower.
Yeah.
It's just not
that's sketchy.
as ideal.
I would rather just run in the green belt, honestly.
Yeah.
And they've cleaned it up enough that like there's not just dog shit everywhere. So possibly.
Yeah.
There's no excuses either way for whatever. I need to do it, and it needs to get done. I need to establish things. And I would like for us to do what we used to do in college and go have like a weekly around the fucking
That'd be great.
lake thing. So I just need to work on my follow through. That's a big one for this. My self-discipline is slacking hardcore.
That's a really hard one. I also really struggle with, because I do have a desk job. So I sit on my ass
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah. And the more you sit on your ass, the harder it is to get off your ass.
Yeah. I've thought about we do have like sit to stand desks.
Still.
I don't think that I could bring like a whole walking pad in, but there's little like bicycle pedal type things that you can do when you're still sitting.
Oh, okay.
Um,
That'd be nice, at least for blood flow, you know?
yeah. And it's much smaller.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, there's no way I'm taking a whole walking pad into the office.
Yeah, that would be a little much.
Yeah.
I think another thing that is going to help me with developing healthy lifestyle habits is self-discovery. I need to make this more fun for myself. I read this study that said it takes about 1,200 attempts to learn a new skill, unless you do it in play, and then it takes 90.
That's a big difference. Okay, yeah, so something fun.
Yeah. Like if I can make my chores fun, if I can make eating something fun, if I can, I need to tap into my inner child a lot more and allow her to run the party more, because clearly she's got it figured out and this adult me is like just a bumbling idiot. And I think that that's going to help me too with my next resolution, which is to try to establish an income away from a clock-in job. It's not that I hate my job, but I hate working for somebody else. I don't like that I need to prioritize time for someone else before I need to prioritize time for me. And I know that the reason I need to do that is because I put myself in a financial situation to become dependent on that job. It's my fault. I did it to myself. However, now I need to move forward. And I have so many other skills that I could profit off of. And so many other people are making so much more money off of me with less talent than what I have. So I'm not conceited. I'm convinced. I know my worth. And I know when I see some shit that people are making good money off that I could do that and better.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always, but I could do it. And I will do it. And I'm going to do it. And that's a goal. So, but I think the biggest thing I need to work on with that is letting go of my fear. Because that's the biggest thing. Well, besides self-discipline. Again, time management, being intentional, self-discipline, but also letting go of my fear, because that shit's not serving me at all. Yeah, so that's what I've got planned for the year. Those are my resolutions. And I've heard that there are a lot of benefits of intentional habits, and I'm really looking forward to reaping those benefits in the future. I have, like I said, I've noticed with the music thing, I have noticed a lot of difference. So I'm excited to further incorporate more intentional habits and to reap more benefits from that.
Yeah, me too.
I looked up an article about intentional habits because I was curious about all the good things that could happen. I found this new little tidbit on Instagram. It said, it was this woman, she was talking about, typically when we go on a new endeavor, we think, what's the worst that could happen, right? And when we do that, we put into the universe worse, 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 and the universe brings us all the worst. She said it was a snip of her video from a year ago and then today, and the year ago said, I'm just gonna try it and see what happens, what's the best that could happen. And she said that one decision was the best thing she did all year. Because when you say, what's the worst that could happen? Worse, 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 right? When you say, what's the best that could happen? The universe hears best, best, best. It starts bringing you the best, best, best.
Yeah. I think that goes back to our previous episode on living in a fear-based life. And getting out of that is you're focusing on everything that could go wrong rather than, focus on everything that could go right.
Right. So I wanted to know what are the good symptoms of living an intentional life, and what does that look like? And it says reduced stress and anxiety, which I feel like is that makes the most sense to me. Increased clarity and focus, that's what I'm looking for.
Also makes sense right here.
Yeah,
the less you're on autopilot, the more
clear things become. Better self-care practices, improved relationships, enhanced self-awareness, healthy boundaries, improved physical health, feeling present and in control, and building internal trust, which is a big one I feel like is nice.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, my sisterly advice would be to slow down and get real with yourself. Chew that over and then come back next week and let's talk about what to do next. As for today, we love that you came to chit chat with us. As always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And join us in the next chat if you feel like it. Or take a break from the talk and watch us get some actual work done on our new DIY channel. Check it out, only on YouTube.
Don't forget to check out our social media for more how-to guides and bonus footage from our previous episodes. And while you're there, why don't you guys tell us what you're going through right now and what you're struggling with? We want to help. After all, that's what a sister's for.
Bye, guys. I kind of have to pee again.
No, you do not.
I'm Research Rick. Oh, I thought I messed it up. You looked at me and I was like, what'd I do? Sorry. It's okay. It's not your fault. It's totally me. I don't know what to do with my body. Am I here or not? Okay. Was that a circle or a square?
It was supposed to be a circle.
Okay.
It's fine.
It got a little flat there at the end and I was confused.
Well, and I felt like with my hands having to come up, it kind of turned into a heart for a little bit too. It's here, circle.
Okay. So if you... Oh, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah. So perspective, we're going to establish a plan. Moving on. Do you find that you've... No. Okay. No. Trash. Next. I'm still mad about it, clearly. And my partner has heard this story multiple times, and oh my gosh, my hair is stuck on this thing.
It's getting too big for that corner.
The fuck were we talking about?
Reconnecting with things we enjoyed in childhood.
Yes. Let's wait for that to pass. Wow.
Perks of living in a city.
I cannot wait to get out.
Yeah. We've from previous. I could do this.
Yep.
Two guys. Don't forget to check